I've been watching your videos, and what
Yeah.
you're doing is absolutely astounding. Thank you for what you do. But not everybody watching tonight knows who you are and what you do. So could you please let the audience know everything about yourself? Go, go, go.
All right. I'm just a dad, two girls, 9 and 11 years old. I'm an insurance broker by trade, but I'm now a reluctant activist because I couldn't take what was happening in this world anymore with gender ideology being taught in our schools and thousands of kids across the nation going on puberty blocking drugs and cross-sex hormones to switch their sex, which is obviously impossible. And we're bringing harm to all these children. So in September of last year, I put up a billboard that said, "I heart J.K. Rowling," because J.K. has spoken out against the medical experiment going on against children. She's spoken out against the craziness of, sending male rapists, of course, into women's prisons, having males compete against women in sports. But my big issue is what's happening to kids, because there's an absolute epidemic and people don't really understand what's happening because the media refuse to report on it. So I wear signs. I had signs made because what happened when I put up that billboard, a Vancouver City Councillor named Sarah Kirby Young said it was hate speech. It said, "I heart J.K. Rowling." And Jimmy Pattison's company, Pattison Outdoor, they covered up the billboard the next day. And this kind of made news kind of all around the world. It was good. It was one good sign. It was good that they took it down because it got a lot more news that way, but I didn't want to stop there. So I reached out on Twitter, which I heard you earlier, and you're absolutely right. It's just full of hate, but it can be good for some things if used correctly. And so I reached out on Twitter, and there was so much outrage, and I said, look, I know most people can't speak out about these gender issues because you'll get fired from your jobs or whatever. So I will put up more billboards and I'll do all the work and I'll take all the heat. I just need help with funding. And right away, a woman in Silicon Valley reached out. She sent me $3,000 US. I needed to raise a bit more money from some Canadians, which I did that night. And we put up a billboard in San Francisco for a week. And then a rich guy down in the States reached out to me, and we ended up doing billboards all throughout Utah, did some in Los Angeles, Portland, Oregon. I did a separate project where I put signs all throughout the Washington, D.C. underground, the metro system, finished off with a billboard at Times Square. And then I just wasn't done yet because I'm still mad because what's going on is just absolutely criminal. And so I thought, well, they might be able to take down my billboard in Vancouver, but they can't take a sign off my back. So I had some signs made up. And I wear signs that say children cannot consent to puberty blockers. Another one says children are never born in the wrong body. I have a sign that says gender ideology does not belong in schools. And I have one with the definition of a dad, which is a human male who protects his kids from gender ideology. But my main sign and my main message is children cannot consent to puberty blockers, because what these drugs do is just stop puberty in its tracks. And we've got an absolute craze going on, especially among adolescent young girls, where they are wanting to switch gender. And so they're going on these puberty blocking drugs, which have never been approved for use for this purpose. The drug in North America is called Lupron. It's given by injection. And what it does is it totally stops puberty from happening. It was originally given approval to treat prostate cancer and endometriosis in women. But even with women, they only go on it for a period not longer than 6 months because it's such a harsh drug. But we're giving this to kids as young as 10. The Endocrine Society recommends it to girls as young as 10 and a half, boys as young as 11 and a half, because the whole idea is you just don't let puberty start up, because what a disaster it would be if a child were to develop their natural secondary sex characteristics. But what this is actually just the first step in a medical pathway that always leads to the next step, which is the opposite sex hormones. So this is girls taking testosterone, boys taking estrogen. And we now have girls at 16 years old getting double mastectomies without parental approval. They don't need parental approval because they're 16 and they're deemed to be a mature minor. But we're teaching this garbage in schools to kids in kindergarten, kids as young as 4 and 5. We're telling them that there's really no such thing as boys and girls. There's a woman named Pamela Buffon in Ottawa, who I met last week, And her daughter came home from school one day when she was 6 years old, and she was upset because the teacher had taught them that there's really no such thing as boys and girls. Because these gender ideologues honestly believe this. It's like a religion. They believe that have a gendered soul, or a boy brain, or a girl brain. And ultimately what it comes down to is just stereotypes. We're teaching kids that it is stereotypes that determine their sex. So if you have a boy who's more effeminate, or a girl who's more masculine, like a tomboy, we're teaching these girls that they're actually boys. And what the studies all show is if you let kids go through puberty and you don't put them on these drugs, more than 4 out of 5 times, this gender dysphoria, it's called, just goes away. And a lot of these kids are just gay. So we're actually doing a weird form of conversion therapy where we're taking kids who are going to grow up to be gay, and we're telling them that they're the other sex just because their stereotypes don't match what we think a child should have. Yeah, a lot of these kids that go to these gender clinics also have autism.
No, Chris. Yeah. The whole thing, you're taking kids that are gay. We can't even really tell. A lot of times,
I'm just telling you when they're an adult. Yeah.
No, I understand that. I was going to just conclude what you were saying there. Yeah. Most times, men and women who are gay don't figure that stuff out till their 30s and 40s. And most people don't even figure out who they are sexually until their late 40s and up to like mid 50s. Human beings need to be left alone to figure these things out on their own. It's just that simple. So you're right. This is a religion. It is a cult. It's dangerous. And everybody who partakes in this, especially the ones who are teaching this to kids, need to go to jail. Now, here's my promise to you, Calgary. When I am mayor of Calgary, any teacher that teaches this to a kid is going to be arrested. They're going to be charged. This is borderline counseling to suicide, because when you're telling people that you need to take drugs to stop your body's natural processes, that is going to screw them up here and send them down a very dark path of the constant wishing for death. So counsel to suicide is a very serious charge. If you're a teacher in the province of Alberta, watch out, because I'm coming for you when I'm mayor. Trust me when I say this. Chris, please continue. What happened after the billboards went viral all over the United States? Because I remember them, and it's very much a pleasure to put a face to the billboard now. What happened after that?
So I wear these signs, and I just go out on street corners. I go downtown Vancouver, and I just hang out wherever it's busy, and I just have conversations with whoever wants to have them, just helping to educate people about what's going on, because the media refuse to report. In BC and Alberta, the school system now has these resources called SOGI 123. SOGI stands for Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity. And if you go to my website, billboardchris.com, go to the section on education there, and I've got some of the lesson plans up, even lesson plans for kindergartners where they can practice their pronouns. And anyway, you can learn all about what your kids might be learning from their woke teachers in school, because this is all throughout BC and Alberta. It's not gotten to the rest of Canada yet, but they're trying to get it there. So anyway, I just have conversations, and I get a lot of abuse. I get a ton of support. At least, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 people support this. But we don't have real democracy in Canada anymore. So it's just these crazy gender ideologues that are running the show because they scare our politicians. And in BC, we've got the NDP, and they're a total disaster. Yeah.
I just want to get your take on this. I'm looking at their website, SOGI123. And the truth is, these people should also be in jail right now. This is pedophilia as far as I am concerned. If we look here, everyone has a sexual orientation and a gender identity. Well, a sexual orientation and a gender, that's what they've got. Go ahead. Your thoughts.
I don't have a gender identity. Do you?
I have a gender. I'm male.
Yeah, well, gender has historically been used synonymously with sex. Like, we are a sexually dimorphic species. What determines our sex is ultimately our gametes. We have sperm, women have eggs. All mammals, that's how we determine sex. And every single child that's born is either male or female. But this whole gender identity thing, all it means is, what stereotypes do you wish to adopt the most?
Right.
And that's how we're going to determine what your gender is. The word gender itself goes back to a man named John Money, who experimented on a couple twin boys back in the 60s, I think. There were these 2 twin boys that were born, and one got a botched circumcision. This is a true story. And this freak decided that he would experiment on this kid with the parents' approval by completely removing all of the child's genitalia and raising this little boy as a girl. And that boy ended up killing himself. And the other one ended up killing himself later on in life too. But that's kind of where the term gender first came from, was this absolutely terrible doctor at Johns Hopkins University, or medical clinic, whatever. But, we just really should get rid of the word gender, but that's not going to happen. So what I'm doing is I'm just teaching parents what's going on.
Well, okay, but you make a very good point here.
Yeah.
And that would be that gender, it's even made into the dictionary. So it's a very common term that's being used. But let's just imagine that gender meant sex. There are still two. There are two. Yeah. Okay. So if we're going to swap one word for another, there are two genders. There are two sexes. I'm looking now at this SOGI 123. Homophobia and transphobia affect all students, whether they identify as LGBTQ or not. Well, let me tell you something about how kids identify when they're kids. Usually by their own name. That's typically it. My name was Kevin in school. It's still Kevin today. I identified as Kevin Johnston. That was it. No other way did I identify. All of this stuff was nothing that ever entered our heads. We were too busy playing Red Rover and throwing mud at each other, soccer, wrestling, I don't know, hide and seek, groundless tag, bike tag, ball tag. Sometimes we'd play ball tag with rocks because we couldn't find a ball. That's what we did. We didn't put on lipstick and nails and try to become the next RuPaul. That's just not what we did. Why would we? It was ridiculous. But look at this thing here. 64% of LGBT students feel unsafe at school. But how many of them are there? And where does that number come from? It just sounds made up to me. Chris, your thoughts?
It's 100% made up. And it's actually the exact opposite because, so first of all, I just want to clarify one thing. LGB and T should never be lumped together. LGB is about your sexual orientation. T is transgender, and it's got nothing to do really with sexual orientation. But these ideologues like to conflate these two things because the transgender lunatics that are trying to force this stuff into our children in order to buy them more legitimacy, they like to conflate the two because no one ever wants to speak out against the LGBT community. And we shouldn't speak out against people who are LGBT. But what's going on with kids is just absolute madness. And there is an absolute craze going on in schools now where you actually get celebrated. It's not cool to be straight. You get celebrated for coming out as transgender. So it's just totally untrue. All they have are lies on everything. All I hear all the time is, oh my goodness, my messaging is so hateful. I'm gonna cause children to kill themselves because the suicide rates are so high. And it's all a lie. It's a complete and utter lie. There's no statistics to back it up. I read studies all the time, but all they do is lie and yell and scream and try to cow everyone into submission. So
okay, I want to show you this, everybody. Can we still see this? Hold on. I've got to. Let me close that window. I'm going to share a different window now. And Chris, I definitely want to get your thoughts on this next thing I'm going to show here. So let me just share the screen. This is the parent brochure. Not only are they trying to poison our kids, which are easy to poison. Kids are easy to influence. Sure. But now they're trying to poison the parents too. So this is the brochure. The teaching resources on sogieducation.org were created by educators across the province to support other educators in creating inclusive classrooms for all students. All resources are in alignment with the update to the BC Human Rights Code in 2016. I'm going to retranslate that, okay? We perverts who are trying to convert everybody into something that we can later play with in life because we are sick, have decided to re-educate the education system to poison your children's minds. I mean, Chris, which one's more accurate? Mine or theirs?
Yours is more accurate. And where these materials actually came from is an organization called the ARC Foundation. So the British Columbia government, back when we had the Liberals in power, actually funded the ARC Foundation to get these materials in. RBC provided funding, BMO provided funding, because of course these corporations love playing identity politics. But It seems to be a subsidiary of the Arcus Foundation in the United States, which is run by a billionaire named, oh my goodness, I need to sleep, named John Stryker. So a lot of this transgender stuff going on today has been led by 3 billionaires. One's named Jennifer Pritzker. Jennifer Pritzker is a trans woman, so biological male. Martine Rothblatt is another billionaire, trans woman. And they've been very strategic over 20 years in funding gender clinics in hospitals. Over here in BC, the only chair in transgender studies in the world at a university is at the University of Victoria, because Jennifer Pritzker, there he is. That's him there. That's that's Glenn Hansman. That's Glenn Hansman. He was the BCTF president from 2016 to 2020, and he wrote his master's thesis in university on queering schools. I have it.
What?
Yes.
So
he's an activist. He's an activist that was tapped on the shoulder. Yeah.
He did what?
He wrote his master's thesis in university on queering schools. And he succeeded because he's got SOGI 123 into all of our schools.
Where do I find that thesis?
I'll send it to you.
I want that, because that's something I've got to look at, and I've got to break that one down. Why would he do that?
He's one of these nut job activists.
This is a guy
that is a religion.
Come to my city, man. I'm telling you.
This is a religion.
It is.
I'm coming to your city next week, by the way.
Is what now?
I'm coming to your city next week.
What day?
I get into Banff on Sunday. I'll be in Calgary Monday, Tuesday. I'll be in Edmonton probably Wednesday, Thursday. I haven't worked out all the details yet. I'm going to Kelowna. I'll be in Kelowna Friday, Saturday. And I'm hanging out with some of those freedom-loving people.
Chris, I have to meet you in person, please.
Let's do it. Yep.
I'm in.
If I may.
Okay. Ed, yeah.
You asked why. Where's this coming from? Well, this all started back from the Frankfurt School back in the 30s. It was taken apart by the Germans, and a lot of these professors came to North America. They got into movie industries. They got into colleges, universities. And why is it Event 201, all this SOGI stuff, all this communist manifesto crap always keeps coming from Johns Hopkins University? Why are Rhodes Scholars always the ones that are bringing this crap on us? This has been going on a long time, Kevin. They've been very slow doing this. This goes back probably to the Frankists in the 1700s. But yeah, this is where it's coming from. And this is just one of those spin-off branches. And in case anyone's wondering why Chris has got his arm isn't a band, well, we've got a video waiting to show you why that happened.
Okay. I'm looking at more people here. Are these people all sick too?
Yeah. I mean, automatically, if they're involved in indoctrinating little children into believing that sex is just a choice, your biological sex is just a choice, then yeah, there's something wrong with them.
It's time to shake things up.
I'm doing it.
Calgary, make sure that I'm in office, because I promise you, these people are going to be in handcuffs. I promise you that. There is nothing worse than people that harm children, and teaching children the wrong things about themselves to force them into new life decisions that they would never have made without your negative influence is a crime against humanity. I'm going to make you pay for that. I've met quite a few Calgary police officers. I've met the tactical boys. These guys are all between 6 foot and 6'7". These guys can pick me up and throw me. I weigh 223 pounds currently. I'm sending these boys in, and I'm going to ask them, could you rough the people up just a little bit? Make sure that they feel a little bit of pain. There's nothing worse than people like you who are going out of your way to destroy the childhood of all of these innocent kids who have done nothing wrong in society at all. They are babies. Stay away from them in this town. In fact, I highly recommend everybody in SOGI just stay out of Calgary. All right. I live here now. This is my city now. Stay away. I'm going to make you pay for this. Sorry, dude. I'm pissed.
It's okay. I'm obviously pissed too.
I'm fuming. I don't sucker punch people, but I've got a feeling that one of these people in the same room with me are going to be missing some teeth. I tell you, I'm absolutely appalled by everything I'm hearing right now, and I'm so thankful that you're here to point this out to all of us. Okay, in your nationwide travels, Antifa people, and let's just call them what they are. Antifa are far left thugs who actually approve of sex between adults and children. These guys approve of pedophilia. They've had banners all over the United States that say "Stop pedo bashing." Pedo bashing means that when you find a pedophile who's picking on kids and having sex with kids and molesting kids, you break every bone in their face. You hurt their genitals. You hurt them in some way. That's called pedo bashing. Antifa is dead set against pedo bashing. These guys are sick as well, and it's all part of this LGBTQ religion. All right. This has nothing to do with homosexuals. If you're gay, this has nothing to do with that, because the average gay individual wants nothing to do with this LGBTQ religion. They want to live their lives and go to work and pay their taxes and be left alone. But these groups here use violence to make sure that we know that pedophilia is okay. That's what they want us to believe, and that's what they're willing to enforce with weapons. Chris, you've been assaulted by these guys. Set us up here. What's going on in this video?
All right. So I went to Ontario. I went to a bunch of universities to spur conversation on campuses. I went to Ottawa, had some good conversations there, met a whole bunch of people. I did this tour back in November, but no one knew who I was, and I was just all on my own. But now people are starting to come out to support me. But then I guess it was Thursday night, I arrived in Montreal. And so on Friday, I met with a couple guys. And I was walking down St. Catherine Street, which is the busiest street in Montreal, with another man named Chris. And not much was happening. I wasn't getting too much hate there. I get way more hate in Vancouver. But we turned around, started coming back down the street, and some people stopped me outside a liquor store just to have a conversation because I'm wearing these signs. So, some guy said, "What are puberty blockers?" And so I had that conversation, and then some more people started talking, and then behind me, some people started talking. So this is just what I do. I have peaceful conversations. And then out of nowhere, well, not out of nowhere, from the road, I had maybe 1 second to react. 5 or 6 or 7, I don't know how many guys and one woman included in there were just on me. And they were ripping my signs off of me, punched me in the face at the same time. I took that big guy there in the front. He hit me with a right hook to the back of my head. But too bad for him, it didn't hurt that much. And I didn't say a word. I didn't fight back because I know if I fight back, I get in trouble with the police. And I'm not here to fight back anyway, I'm just here to have conversations. I don't want stuff escalating into violence. But I started retreating, walking down the sidewalk, and they were smashing up my signs. I have a body cam that I clip onto my sign, but that doesn't do me any good because they took my sign with it and then smashed it up. And so I got my phone out of my pocket and I started filming. And so this guy in the front here, he picks up a really large traffic pylon, one of the big ones. Maybe it's only 8 or 10 pounds. And I wasn't too worried about it because it's just made out of plastic. But the base is pretty heavy. And so he repeatedly tried to hit me with this traffic pylon. Yeah.
Get the fuck out of this neighborhood. You fucking go.
And I blocked it with my left forearm. And then he hit me again, and I blocked it again. And then he tried to hit me again, and I blocked it again. So about 4 times. And one of those blows, I think it was the second blow. I think I can actually hear it crack. Broke my forearm.
Get the fuck out of here.
So
sorry for the language, everyone. That's Antifa, not us.
Yeah, that's Antifa. So my forearm is broken. One of those bones is in 2 pieces, but that's okay. I'll take a broken bone any day of the week for the amount of media exposure that this has generated, because this has made news all over the world. It's reached a few million people. One of the biggest talk show radio hosts in the United States is going to be having me on. And so, their violence has backfired spectacularly. And I'm not going to be quiet, because I might get a broken arm, but that's nothing compared to a indoctrinated 16-year-old girl who's getting a double mastectomy and is becoming sterilized, because after several years on testosterone treatment, these girls have to get their uterus removed often because the uterus suffers so much atrophy. So we're actually sterilizing kids in the name of gender ideology.
Let me tell you, little girls, something out there. Whenever somebody tells you that you need to do something with your body, no matter what age they are, they're lying to you. They're wrong. It's your body. It belongs to you. Everything about your body is your choice. If someone is going to tell you that you are something other than what you know that you are, they are also lying. The only time someone tells you that there's something wrong with your body is when they are trying to get you to do something that they want. That's an evil person. If you are a young girl, like a tween or young teenager, or even a teenager in your late 18, 19, whatever it might be. Let me tell you something right now. The most wonderful thing in the world that you can do is be a mother. All right. And the most wonderful thing you can do as men is be a father. It really is. The tears just dripped down my face when my kids were born. You know, I was just so floored at what I saw. I felt so alive, so human when this took place. You know, I cut both my kids' cords. You know, I had them in my hands within minutes of them being born. The best thing that their mother ever did was be a mother to them. The best thing every woman that I know, especially over the age of 40, ever did is be a mother. Don't take pills. Don't take drugs. Don't take injections. Please don't take motherhood away from yourselves. It is beautiful. You are never going to feel any love in this world ever like you will the love of your own children. But if you are sterilizing yourself, you're never going to have them. You'll never know what that love is. And I'm telling you as a man, how much I loved my children when I saw them. Even my son who died in my hand when he was just 22 weeks old. I felt instant love. Come on, please. I beg you, don't do this. Gender dysphoria, guys. Chris said it's going to go away. It will go away. Strange ideas in your head when you're young go away because you're going to have more life experience. You're going to meet more and different people in more and different situations. You know, there are going to be a lot of things out there that you have to decide for yourself that will make you stronger and better. Don't let anybody else out there decide for you what's right for your body. Please, I beg you. Chris, go ahead.
But here's the thing, Kevin. They're getting indoctrinated from when they're little kids. And they'll take that message that you just gave and they'll use it against you because they'll say, oh, but you're telling me that I can't consent to puberty blockers, but it's my body and I can do with it what I want. So these activists use that sort of theory and they flip it around in a really perverse way. And so anyway, people can check it out on my website, but there was a court case in England in December where a girl, 15 years old, and a young woman named Kira Bell, who's now 23, they sued. They sued the Tavistock, which is the gender clinic in the UK. This clinic had 4,600 kids on its wait list for puberty blockers, by the way. There's tens of thousands of children wanting to transition, most of them girls. This is not a fringe issue affecting one or two kids here and there. It's children in every single school. Just today when I was driving downtown, I got another message from a dad who's freaking out because his daughter is now wanting to be a boy just because she learned it in school. I get these every single day of the week. Anyway, there was a court case and the High Court in England ruled exactly what my signs say, which is that children cannot consent to puberty blockers. They cannot give informed consent to these puberty blockers because it's destroying their future sexual function. Kids aren't able to understand the relationship between puberty blockers and then the cross-sex hormones. It's sterilizing these kids. It's destroying relationships. They listed off about 8 different reasons, and it's all on my website on the section under puberty blockers. But, you know, since when does a 10-year-old or 11-year-old or a 12-year-old able to make lifelong decisions where they can consent to becoming a lifelong medical patient and sterilizing their body? And why don't these endocrinologists at the children's hospitals challenge these children a little bit? Because what happens, and when I was in Ottawa, this is a true story, and this repeats 1,000 times, A 14-year-old girl just went to the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, CHEO, it's called, a couple weeks ago. First appointment with the endocrinologist, 20 minutes, and she was injected with Lupron.
That guy needs to go to jail. How did we get here? Any idea how we got here? I mean, Ed says this was a slow thing, but I'll tell you this, over the last 2 years, it seems to have been really, really fast. How did we get here?
I do have an idea. I mean, maybe it takes a little long, but there's been very strategic planning by these ideologues, and they've been one by one picking off institutions. They've been funding gender clinics, and they even have a manual, which I can show you. I'll show it to you when I come to Calgary. But they know exactly what they need to do to influence governments. They have manuals on how to basically insert their own legislation. So they'll write the legislation, they'll propose it to these governments. And, you know, all these liberals, these idiots, they just want to be seen as being inclusive and accepting. And they don't care that all this harm is coming to kids because they're cowards. And they know that if they were to speak the truth and offer up any objection, that they would get the Twitter mob coming for them. And it's just a huge propaganda campaign. And the transgender lobby is winning this propaganda campaign. And so we were all kind of asleep because it wasn't affecting us that much. But they've been working hard behind the scenes for 20 odd years, 30 years. But especially in the last 15, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, it just keeps growing. It's like compounding interest, Kevin. It starts really small, but it keeps going. And now we are in such a terrible position because court cases have set dangerous precedents. Just today, a man in British Columbia went to jail because his 14-year-old daughter, he objected to her getting puberty blockers and testosterone treatment. And he refuses to call his daughter his son. So he's now sitting in jail. And he's going to have another trial in April. But he breached conditions because he had conditions where he wasn't allowed to call his daughter she. But he did. And that is deemed to be family violence. And so he's now sitting in jail because he's powerless to stop his daughter transitioning to the other gender.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read very quickly what Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson had to say here because I gave her a call. I know that she has spoken to you already.
Yeah.
And I know that she has spoken to this man that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very short
with him today. Yeah.
Yeah. Very short message here. I'm going to block Laura's number.
Okay.
Okay. So I was asking, hey, Laura, can you send me oh, no, that's not it. Okay. I called her to ask what the law said. Is this media ban, right. Is it national or was it just provincial in the province of British Columbia? And it turns out that it's national. So she did get back to me about 5 minutes after the show began. So and we can't mention his name as a result of that. Now, if any Americans are out there that want to be on my show where you can read things out on my show from the United States of America, please contact me immediately. I'll just have you read a whole bunch of script stuff. I mean, I can't broadcast it, but you can. And you can do it on my show because I'm not saying it. I'll just put tape on my mouth and let you talk. This is out of control. Now, you guys know I say this all the time. I was put in maximum security prison myself for 6 weeks just for talking, for having the wrong political opinions. Our court systems need to be completely torn down. They're of no value anymore whatsoever. They only serve the left. They got to go. So if all you out there are wondering how it is we can do this, stop paying your taxes. Stop. Just stop paying your taxes. Civil disobedience. Stop participating in their world. They have control over things right now. And regrettably, all of you fear it as opposed to getting angered by it and then fighting it. Come on, everyone. It's what are you afraid of? Really, what are you afraid of when you come out there and speak these truths and play back what Chris is saying right now and what I'm saying? What are you afraid of? Some of your stupid family members will stop talking to you. You don't need them anyway. They're the type of people that would stab you in the back. Some of your stupid friends won't be your friends anymore. Again, you don't need them. They're the ones that would turn you into whatever group takes over the nation. You got to figure out very fast who's on your side and who's not. And you can do so easily by just telling the truth about subjects like this and dust the people in your life that are angry with you for telling the truth. Chris, this Antifa attack, they broke your arm. The police did nothing, obviously. And I know that police nationwide have been instructed by the federal government not to get involved, to let Antifa do their thing. We know this. Because this was
I have another story too.
Yeah, go.
About Antifa. In October, I was at the Vancouver Art Gallery, and there's a huge public square there. That's where all the protests happen in downtown Vancouver. And I might have sent you guys some footage of this. It's on my Twitter, pretty high up in the timeline right now if people want to check it out. But I was wearing a sign that said gender ideology does not belong in schools. And I walked off the sidewalk into this huge public square, and I was immediately surrounded by a bunch of Antifa in a circle. And they didn't want to let me move. So I extracted myself from that circle and I went over to the police. There were about 20 of them standing there. And they blamed me. They said I was instigating. I did nothing except stand there. So they weren't going to keep me safe or do anything. So a second time I walked in. And right away, my phone got knocked out of my hand because I videoed this whole thing. And so I picked up my phone and I went back to the police. They all claimed they didn't see it. They're all watching me from 20 feet away. So I argued with them for a couple minutes, and this police officer is telling me, I'm telling you, do not go into that crowd. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I know my rights. I'm in a free country. I'm not instigating anything. I'm just standing here wearing a sign. Are you telling me I can't wear a sign and walk freely? And he says, I'm not telling you anything. And they said, when I said something like, you know what, I'm allowed to be here. I can walk anywhere freely. And he said, you can. And then this other officer said to me, this is a safe space. Well, I have since learned, I was naive at the time. I've since learned that safe space means it's a safe space for them, not for me. Right. Because the third time I walked off the sidewalk into the public square, and people were swarming all around me. And this guy named Robert Ages, who is the member services rep for the BC Government and Service Employees Union, he came and hit me with two hands in my signs. And instantly I was grabbed from behind by the police, handcuffed, taken to jail, and charged with causing a disturbance. So I actually have my first court hearing on March 22nd. I called Crown Counsel today. They haven't even looked at it yet, so maybe they won't even go ahead and press charges. I'd love them to. I'd love a trial, because this speaks directly to our freedom of speech and our right to assemble, our right to protest. So, they'd be fools to go ahead with this because they don't have a leg to stand on. I videoed the whole thing. But that happened and I got arrested. So I got assaulted and I got arrested. And then another time I got hit in the side of the head from behind by somebody. And so I got arrested for that too, because I wanted to stop him. But, I really didn't do anything. I'm not going to get into that one because whatever.
Well, with Antifa,
legal stuff, but
I'll say this actually,
totally
Chris. With Antifa, it's always from behind. They've always got a swarm of them, and most times what they'll do is they'll flank you. I went through this myself in Ottawa, 2017, where 46 of them attacked me, and I had to fight them off. And I ended up with a slight crack in the wrist here because I had to block an extendo of all things, a police extendo where you clack it and you can come at it. You come at me. They hit me in the face. They hit me with everything. They broke the cartilage in my ear, which had to be rebuilt.
How are you so handsome still? I don't get it.
Well, how does the old saying go? When you're cool, the sun shine on you 24 hours a day. But Antifa, they can't fight. I was watching the video with you, and I'm looking for their stance and whatnot, because I used to box. And the biggest thing you want to do is have a look at your opponent's footwork. You want to see how they're adjusting their own body weight, and they're they're throwing their body weight forward like this. So it'd be the type of thing, if they were to miss with that cone, you could just push them by the back of the head and they're gone. They don't know how to fight these guys. These are angry, lost kids, most likely come from either broken homes or single mother homes, and have no idea who their fathers are, or their fathers are complete losers. Then they get into this ridiculous education system run by maniacs. And I've met many school administrators, and the teachers just play along because they want to keep their cushy 6-figure jobs. It's to the point now where teachers aren't working at all. They're just sitting around. They put their feet up on the desk and tell kids, yeah, you do what you want. I get paid regardless. That is how bad our country has become. It's fallen hard. Now, you Antifa types out there, you guys are trying to bring about chaos and anarchy because you think that utopia is something that can exist. But none of you have actually read the book Utopia by Sir Thomas More. You should read it. It's close to half the population in that utopian book are slaves. You say somebody to be ahead has to put somebody else behind. And you Antifa kids, you are the useful idiots. Ed, before you speak, I just want to say this. Mao Zedong, when he murdered 100 million Chinese citizens, he was a leader of the Communist Army. He wanted to take over the nationalist secular China. What he did is he utilized useful idiots like you Antifa types. He told students in universities and high schools, beat up your teachers, beat up your parents. Your parents are bad. Your professors are bad. Make them fear you, which they did. It undermined the entire education system. And after Mao Zedong won his decisive battle, what did he do? He imprisoned and murdered the very same Antifa types that he was using to get his point across in the first place. The government, when they're finished with you, Antifa, will kill you. That's just how it works.
It's like a Sith Lord.
Yes. When your usefulness is done, you're done too. You're going bye-bye. Ed, go ahead.
Chris, was that video March 15th that you were just talking about?
No, October 24th. It's on my Twitter feed. It's probably only like 4 or 5 tweets down from the top.
Okay, I'll be back in a minute with that, Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, your crusade, obviously it's noble, and you're getting picked on and harassed and assaulted because they know that they're wrong. They have absolutely not one single solitary scientific argument, period. Yeah. Not a one. Has there ever been a single compelling argument that you've heard that anything about transitioning kids is scientific or medical? Go ahead.
No.
Well, that's an easy answer. Okay, show's over. Bye-bye. So hey.
No, honestly, Kevin, I was asked this the other day. There really hasn't been. I haven't had one conversation where I've been stumped, because there is nothing. And I've done all my research, and I'm still learning more all the time, but ultimately this is pretty simple. But they have nothing. And the people who are adamantly in favor of this ideology, all they can ever do is yell and scream and swear at me and tell me how bigoted and awful I am. And so I'll say, well, why don't we have a conversation? Like, do you have anything intelligent to say? And they've got nothing, ever. There's never anything. An endocrinologist came up to me on the street corner at Granville in Georgia, right downtown Vancouver, a few weeks ago. So this guy came up to me. I didn't know who he was. And he just looked at me and went, "You're an effing a-hole."
Okay.
And so, thank you. That's what I said. I said, thank you. I'm very polite. And I said something like, why do you think it's okay to block puberty in children? And he responded something, but I realized, this guy has a little more information than the average bear. So I wanted to get some more info out of him. And so we walked across the street together, and he told me that he's an endocrinologist. So these are the doctors who prescribe these drugs, who do these injections in kids. And he told me that we're not blocking puberty in children, they're doing the other puberty. So when a girl goes on puberty blockers, she then goes on testosterone. So she goes through the male puberty. This is a guy who went to school for a really long time. There is no such thing. When kids go on these puberty blocking drugs, it stops everything in its tracks. So one thing that also stops developing, for example, is their bone density. We have young adults now, not even 30 years old, with early onset osteoporosis. because their bones never gain the density that they should. There's studies on this now. Girls' breasts won't grow, they won't menstruate, their pelvises won't expand, boys' genitals won't grow. And then these boys grow up and they go for the full sex reassignment surgery at 18, but because their genitals didn't grow, this gets really grotesque. But what they do when they make a neo-vagina for these boys, these young men, is they invert the penis. But because it never grew, there's not enough tissue there. So they end up taking a piece of their colon and using that. And for women, they end up taking pieces of their forearm out in order to make a fake phallus. Like, it's just grotesque, And these poor kids, if they were just allowed to go through puberty, these struggles that they're having would go away. And it's just a fact, generally speaking, that puberty is harder for girls. Boys, it can be hard too. I didn't have the best time because I was kind of a late bloomer, but whatever, it wasn't a big deal. Boys just kind of get bigger and stronger. Girls, everything changes really quickly and they're getting looked at by men, creepy men like that one you were talking about before. And they're getting sexualized, and it's just way more difficult for girls, and puberty can really suck. So if you give children an option that they can just switch sex and become a boy, if you give these girls that are tomboys, if you teach them and steep them in this theory for years that because they're more masculine, it's because they have a boy brain, and they're constantly in this environment in schools and then on social media, if you give them an out from the difficulties they're having, well, guess what, Kevin? Some are going to take it.
Yeah, they are.
That option.
They
are. And we're seeing the same psychology play out in every school across the nation.
Okay, kids. So let listen up. Chris talked about being a late bloomer. My voice didn't change until I was almost in grade 10. It's just how it is. Whoopie-doo, And yes, puberty is a difficult time because half the guys in grade 9, their voices had cracked. And some of them actually even had mustaches and beards and whatnot. And I'm thinking, oh, man, like I'm a kid and they're men. They're not men. They're just boys whose hormones kicked in a little quicker than mine. That's all that they are. There was no difference in cognitive ability. There was no difference in maturity levels. I mean, 15-year-old boys, whether they have mustaches, little mustaches or not, are still going to throw eggs and wrap trees in toilet paper and fart on each other. And deliberately pee on someone else's car and whatnot. This is just what boys do, right? It's not a sign of maturity at all. So chill out, guys. Relax. Your voice is going to crack. You will get armpit hair. You will get some back hair. You're going to get ear hair, all right? None of these things are good, right? You might think they're good when you're young, but I'm telling you right now, they're not. I'm at the age, I'm almost 50, guys. So I got ear hair in here. I've actually got to take a little bit of wax and I got to pull this stuff out. It sucks. And let me tell you what else sucks about body hair. Being almost 50 years of age, I could start the morning off, right? Everything looks good. And then by the time 9 p.m. rolls around, I've got 7 new white hairs in my nose that are actually extending now out of the nostril. Where the hell did they come from? That sucks, guys. Kids, don't be in a hurry to grow up. Chill the FA, man. Like, just relax. It'll come in time. And if you're feeling strange feelings, weird sexual ideas, if you're having strange dreams or you have weird crushes on your teachers, that's normal. Right? It will pass. Right? It really will pass. And you're not even going to comprehend what a relationship is really until your 30s. That's just how it is. So enjoy life. Forget everything your teachers are saying about this stuff. Boys are boys, girls are girls. It's not the other way around. Chris, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're totally right. But I'll tell you, Kevin, it's very scary out there because I have a unique perspective because I've had, I don't know how many conversations out on the street now, 1,500, a couple thousand. And I've had probably, a few thousand abusive comments. But there is a striking divide between the sexes in the younger generation. And it is predominantly young women who have been taken into this ideology. And when you think about it, it makes sense because it's almost all young girls who are wanting to transition. And so all these young women know girls who have transitioned. And I guess they kind of weaponize their empathy when they see me. They weaponize their empathy for these young girls and they, get really abusive because They think that, why don't you let kids just be who they are? And they honestly believe, so many of them believe in this ideology. It's shocking. And it's just the younger generation. And what's happening is they're going to university, and there's no women's studies classes anymore. They all take gender studies courses, predominantly women taking these courses. And then they graduate from university. They get hired into our corporations. They get hired into HR. And overnight, we get a young generation changing the way the world works, because all of our politicians just want to be seen as being, accepting and inclusive. And it's all about diversity, just all these things that sound good on the surface, but you need to dig deeper than the surface, because every truly evil thing that ever has grabbed hold in this world on its surface was always presented as something good. Otherwise, it never would have taken off. And that's what this is. This is seen by the majority of the population as just being about acceptance, and people just don't know what's going on. But parents are getting blindsided every single day. So I know that government isn't going to listen to me. Our conservative politicians federally are finally getting it. Just a couple weeks ago, I spoke with the man who arranged the meeting. Someone went in and spoke to the entire conservative caucus about gender ideology and all the things that are happening. So there's a bill about to come into law called Bill C6, and it's second reading. So when a bill becomes law, it goes through 3 readings. Second reading last year, the vote passed 308 to 7. Only 7 conservative MPs voted against this bill. And what this bill is, again, it looks good on the surface. So it's about banning conversion therapy. And what they've done is they've conflated sexual orientation with gender identity. So it will ban conversion therapy of someone's sexual orientation, and it will ban conversion therapy of someone's gender identity. There it is. And if you scroll down a little, right in the preamble there, go right down a little more, preamble, there, stop. It says right there that it is a myth that a person's sexual orientation and gender identity can and ought to be changed. Wait a minute. How is it a myth that a gender identity can change when we have all these children detransitioning? How is it a myth that gender identity can change when these gender ideologues themselves tell us that gender is fluid? You can be a boy one day, you can be a girl the next, you can be non-binary. This bill is so flawed right from the very outset, it just has 100% falsity. But what's happening, and this bill too, it'll only make it a criminal offense to convert someone's gender identity from transgender to your real gender. It isn't a criminal offense to take a child in school, to take a little girl, and it won't be a criminal offense to brainwash her and have her believe that she's actually a boy. That's fine. But to do the other way around, to do talk therapy with children, to do watchful waiting with children, will be deemed a criminal offense. And so a professional therapist with a practice of treating gender dysphoric youth will face up to 5 years in prison. When? Because it's not a question of if. If a therapist treats a bunch of kids with this condition, it's only a matter of time until an activist or some crazy parent comes for them and accuses them of trying to convert their child's mythical gender identity. And then they'll be defending their practice in court. They'll be in the media for practicing conversion therapy, which is garbage. And they'll be facing prison time. So what this will do is put a total chill on the entire profession. And then the only option for these children who are caught up in this transgender craze, the only option will be for them to go to these gender clinics. And there's more of them opening all the time. There's 700 now in the United States of America. There's 10 across Canada, but they'll open up more. The only option will be to go to see these gender clinics where they are affirmed only. They walk in, 1 or 2 appointments, boom, you're on puberty blockers, and then you're on testosterone or estrogen, and we're causing irreversible damage. We're sterilizing kids, and we're not allowed to talk about it. So I'm just talking to parents and people one at a time.
I need to know, is there one in Alberta here?
Oh, yeah.
Where?
I'll look it up. but they're
Thank you.
they're usually at the children's hospitals.
They're at the children's hospital, so
Yeah.
I can't even walk into that kind of thing without looking like a creep to investigate it.
I'll look it up.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ed, go ahead.
You guys realize that if you try to talk a person that wants to convert out of it, there's criminal charges coming for you too, eh?
Yeah, anyone, parents, religious leaders, anyone.
So if I had a
Basically,
daughter she wanted to switch over and I tried talking her out of it, I'm the one that's going to get charged under the current legislation.
Yeah, but Ed, it's not even about trying to talk them out of it. Okay, like if you just practice watchful waiting, where a child comes forward and what's going on with these children. Here's the facts, okay? Studies all show this. These children have other comorbidities going on, such as depression or anxiety. At some of these gender clinics, according to their own data, up to 40% of these kids have autism. Sometimes there's been other things going on. In British Columbia, get this. There are about 500 children in the foster system being transitioned by a Dr. Wallace Wong.
Yeah,
The money.
they're easily influenced in foster care. So yeah, of course they would groom those children to want to do that, which is sad.
Mm-hmm. The more you dig into this, the worse and worse it gets. And so I was digging into this, and I just had enough. And I didn't want to do this. I'm not an activist. No one likes, the stress has been amazing, but I don't care because I'm a dad and I got girls. And I've talked to hundreds of parents now. I was just in Kingston. I went to Queen's University, and I met with a dad there. This awesome, beautiful man, successful businessman, 22 employees. He's got a 14-year-old girl who's transitioning, and he's sitting there. We're having coffee, and he's repeatedly breaking down in tears because he's powerless to stop this, and he doesn't know what to do.
That is tough.
And so these meetings just drive me, man, because there's so many parents like this.
Is this
and I've
him?
just had enough because our kids are under attack.
Is this Wallace Wong?
I don't know what he looks like, to be honest with you.
Because this is the only face. This guy here, is the only one that comes up under Doctor.
Yeah, I wouldn't put up someone's picture yet because there's probably a lot of Wallace Wongs, but I don't know.
I'm just asking if that's him.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's an absolute mess, man. I'm not making any of this stuff up. I've done all my research, and it's we have to. So here's what we got to do. We have to get out on the streets in numbers, and we have to start protesting because the media won't report on it. And so, feminists have been talking about this a lot on social media, but they can't go out on the street because it's very abusive, right? We need men getting out on the street, protesting, making noise, and being visible. Because I'm just one guy, but I've reached millions of people now because I'm just persistent and I refuse to give up. I won't let them intimidate me. And on any given day, there might be 50,000 people drive by and see me and my sign. And I can see people in their cars going, children cannot consent to puberty blockers. And sometimes they roll down their window and they'll say, hey, we thought you were crazy, but we just Googled it. I can't believe this is going on. Because the average person just gets it right away, how nuts this is.
Right.
But this is
the mainstream media is not going to report on this, Chris. So, I
They
mean, like
won't.
Derek
They
and
won't
I.
report on my
we
attack
were
in
talking about
Montreal.
this.
A Canadian man doing activism got attacked on the main street in Montreal on a Friday night by Antifa members and got his arm broken. And not one mainstream media outlet can even say one word about it.
Because it goes against their narrative because they want all this to happen. That's why they won't report on it, which is sick,
I've had 2 CBC reporters want to report on it, like the individual journalists, but CBC won't let them.
See, the editors are the big problem. They're the ones that don't let things go through. There are some good reporters out there. Very few. In CBC,
Very few at the
very
CBC.
few.
Very few.
But
Agreed.
I just wish they had just break the barriers and put it on their own social medias as their own story and go past the CBC or global and put it out there.
This is, in my opinion, this is the biggest child abuse medical scandal in modern medicine history. There's thousands of kids across our nation and thousands and tens of thousands more coming if we don't put a stop to it. So I would love 100 men. I'd love 100 men out on the streets and women. We all have to work together, Yeah. Feminists have been carrying the water on this, and I know a lot of men don't like feminists, and I get it. There can be problems there. And I don't think any man should ever call himself a feminist, but they're outraged. And there are parents that are outraged. And it doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum, where you are religiously. Parents get it because they're coming for our kids, man. So we need numbers, because just me ain't gonna do it. We need lawyers and scholars, and we need to make noise. Because
thank you for being the one to start doing it, though.
So I'm coming to Calgary, and if you guys can wrangle up some people for me, that'd be awesome. I'm going to be in Edmonton too. I'm going to be in Kelowna too.
Calgary, you're hearing this right now. This gentleman is coming to Calgary. Be here. Yeah. Join us. I'm going to be there right beside this man.
Me too.
Be there. So is Derek. Bro. Chris, thank God for that. I actually do want to reflect here on the feminists and the lesbians. Actually, this is kind of funny how it works. Most feminists, most of them these days are third and fourth wave feminists, where it's sheer hatred of men, which is kind of why they wouldn't want girls to become boys, like literally getting the surgery done, because realistically speaking, feminists and the hardcore lesbians want women to remain women because they prefer women and hate men. So I could see where the feminists would hate this whole thing of transitioning, but they're not doing anything about it. They really aren't. They might get angry on Twitter, but that's about it. And even then, if a feminist says something against this on Twitter, the rest of the Twitterverse will attack her. So
yeah, there's really different types of feminists. It's just the radical feminists. Sorry, I'm sorry, I spoke over you.
No, go ahead.
It's just the radical feminists speaking out, and mostly they're speaking out about how women's rights are being affected, and they're right. When I went to Ontario, I got invited to come to this prison protest, and it's because we're sending sex offenders now into women's penitentiaries.
Yep.
Literally.
It was just a few months ago at a library in Bathurst and Bloor, I think the area was, where some women's group was trying to have a meeting in a library. Mm-hmm. They were going to talk about what they're going to do about letting trans people into public washrooms and washrooms at work and such. And
sports.
Look what happened there.
Yeah.
Got shut down pretty strong. So if people think these communists don't know what they're doing, they do, and they know how to organize.
They're violent, and so we need men to stand up to them.
Yeah. It's easy for a predator to dress up like a woman and go into a bathroom, you know?
That's right. Like, seriously, this isn't difficult to understand. And they're coming for women's sports now too, you know? There was an MMA fighter named Fallon Fox, a dude.
Oh yeah.
He
crushed that woman's skull in.
And he gave another one a concussion and ended her career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't even a good fighter. That's probably why he's transitioning. We have girls losing their medals in college sports now because some dude just decided he's now a woman. And so there was this guy, he was like 260th in the nation or something, or 600th in the nation. He identified as a woman and won gold medals. So I really hope the Olympics happen, because the stupid International Olympic Committee is now letting men compete as women. And so that'll wake up half the world.
Oh, it will. And nobody will take the Olympics seriously again. And the Olympics will lose a ton of money, and cities will stop bidding for it, and the Olympics will be gone. And quite frankly, professional sports and big Olympic events like this need to disappear, because they are no longer about sport. It is all about making social statements that are wrong and money. So I couldn't care less if this Olympics that has been delayed happening in Japan. I couldn't care less if it tanks. And I certainly hope what happens here is that all you feminists out there who are fighting for stupid rights, I hope that men are in every single women's sport and win every single gold medal, so you can finally understand just how wrong you really are. I'm going to laugh my head off when I see it. I might watch women's sports just to see the men win, just so I can come on the show here and make a statement. But I couldn't care less about the Olympics anymore. I don't even care about pro hockey anymore, and I'm a big hockey fan. I just don't care anymore. There's too much of this left-wing stupidity going on.
Yeah.
None of you, let me tell you, pro athletes, none of you are highly educated in anything other than your sport. Okay? Yep. Pro hockey players know hockey. I would never tell a single pro player out there how to play the game, because I don't know how to play pro hockey, period. Just like none of you players out there know nothing about endocrinology, nothing about about hormones, nothing about medicine, nothing about psychology, and nothing about kids. Keep your mouth shut. Play the game and go home. That's it. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
If I can cut it.
I mean,
go ahead.
You pretty much nailed it. I think when you talked about the feminists, you're talking about the liberal feminists, right? They're all nutcases. Yeah. They don't even, anyway.
I'm not calling liberals anymore because that term, they've twisted that 50 years ago. Yeah. Let's call them what they are. Communists dressed as liberals. Socialists, which socialism always leads to communism
or Marxism.
History, it always happens. Yeah. What can the ladies that are watching this and the guys that are watching this, what are we going to do about this? What's the plan? Do we
you got to have conversations with people, one conversation at a time. You got to think what you can do, what you're comfortable doing, and you got to do it. We all have to stop saying, oh, but there's so much violence. Oh, but they say nasty things to me on Twitter. Stop thinking about what you can't do and start thinking about what you can do and think your way around these problems, because they're coming for our kids. And the head of the snake of this whole transgender movement now is the school system.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Complaining about adults and all that is fine. But if we don't address this in the school system, in one generation, our society is dramatically altered, and I'm not exaggerating. We've already seen it. It's already nuts. A man just went to jail because he doesn't want his daughter having her puberty blocked and going on cross-sex hormones. Our society is effed.
How about this? How about guys that are out there, women that are out there, you're thinking, okay, I'm only one person, what can I do? You know what? Take this video. When you're sitting around having lunch or dinner with a bunch of friends or even coworkers, say, let's watch this video. Let's have a conversation. And then you'll see the blood start to boil. And we've got 400, almost 394 people watching right now. We know it's a lot more than that.
Oh, the shadow banning's ridiculous. Yeah.
So let's go to 25,000 in a day. Share this out to your groups. Have these conversations at lunch, at dinner. Don't be shy. And put it out there. Let's see what happens. I got a feeling there's a lot of people that are thinking the same way that us four are.
They are
putting this out.
I know it. They are.
Will change. They're going to keep steamrolling this onto us. This is our future, people, our kids.
Yep. And go to billboardchris.com, please, and just start getting yourself educated a little bit. The site's going to keep improving, but it's pretty good right now. It's got all the basic stuff you need to know. And knowledge is very important when you're having these conversations, because it's just so mental. People don't believe you.
I'm actually just going to bring your website up here, Chris. Give me a second. I want people to see what it looks like, just so that they know they've got the right place when they get there.
Sure.
And here we go. This is the website, billboardchris.com.
Yeah. There's me.
Yep.
Not looking as tired as today.
Yeah. Got you there.
Some of my media appearances, we'll be getting more up there. Got all the basics for people. If you go to the top, go to puberty blockers.
Oh, I just clicked on J.K. Rowling. This is the billboard that started everything.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah,
so that must have drove a lot of socialist nuts when you put that up, eh?
Oh my goodness, guys. I can't even communicate how mental September and the first half of October were. I've had like 100 death threats, prank phone calls, all sorts of junk. It was crazy. I was getting attacked online like every 7 seconds of the day.
No doubt.
All hours of the day. It just never stopped. But it eventually died down. And I'd like you to go to the high court ruling under puberty blockers there. So go back to the top. Oh, yeah, click on that. Yeah. So here we go. Right down here, it lists the 8 reasons why children cannot consent to puberty blockers. Go down. There we go. So the court listed them all.
One,
immediate
consequences of the treatment in physical and psychological terms. 2,
this is what children can't understand, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
2, the fact that the vast majority of patients taking puberty-blocking drugs proceed to taking cross-sex hormones are and therefore a pathway to much greater medical interventions. 3, the relationship between taking cross-sex hormones and subsequent surgery with implications of such surgery. 4, the fact that cross-sex hormones may well lead to a loss of fertility. Good point. 5, the impact of cross-sex hormones on sexual function. Another good point. You talked about penises and testicles not growing properly. Yeah, that's a problem. 6, the impact that taking this step on this treatment pathway may have on the future lifelong relationships. Thank you. We're going to come back to that one in a second. 7, the unknown physical consequences of taking puberty-blocking drugs. And 8, the fact that the evidence base for this treatment is as yet highly uncertain. But I want to go to 7 here for a second. The impact that taking this step may have on future lifelong relationships. Okay, let's be a little bit callous and cold and cruel here. If you're coupling with another human being, you are looking to eventually procreate. What does that mean? You have to have sex. And I don't know a single man out there who wants to be involved in a relationship where he's not getting laid. It's really that simple. And women, you ladies out there, you pretend you don't like sex, but we know that you do. And are you honestly going to stay with a man who can't perform? If a child, a boy, goes through all these puberty blockers and he ends up with a condition called micropenis, and this is a real thing, look it up, where it can be this big. What kind of a sexual relationship can you possibly have with this man? Really. This is a problem. So you are destroying any and all capacities for you to have a proper intimate relationship with another human being. And believe me when I say this, an intimate relationship with another human being is awesome, especially when you love that person. So please, everyone out there who's considering this stuff, don't do it. Listen to what the courts have to say in England. At least they've got a little bit of brains, not much, but a little bit.
They're doing great in England in fighting back against this. And it's primarily the women over there. They've gotten it out of the schools. They stopped self-identification laws from happening. They've now banned these puberty blockers. So all the kids under 16 years of age had to come off, and all the 16 and 17-year-olds would need approval from the court. But that's not going to happen. So they won, man. They won this battle. But we, in Canada, are going 100 miles an hour in the exact wrong direction. Yeah. And I was talking to some politicians out front of Parliament the other day, and the guy said, it's probably going to take us 10 years to unravel this stuff. And another woman was with me. She was from England, actually, originally. And we're like, no. We're not waiting 10 years. You wait 10 years, you got another 50,000 kids affected. And that's just not acceptable. So what we need to do is sue. We need to find our own Kira Bell. That's the woman that sued in the UK that led to that court ruling. We need to find a young adult or even children who have been harmed by this ideology, and we need to sue. But we need to sue correctly because we need to win. Because if we lose and we set a bad precedent, then we're even more screwed than we were before.
Sure. Let me tell you what's going to happen if one of these kids that eventually becomes adults sues and loses. Now, what I'm about to say here is not a threat in any way. What I'm about to say here is something that all of society needs to consider, and that is the human desire for revenge. There's a reason why I don't walk through life, picking on people, shoving people, kicking people, spitting on them, scratching their cars, and doing whatever else. I don't do these things to people because I don't want someone taking advantage of my back being turned 10 years later and hitting me in the head with a weapon. You're a teacher. Imagine you're a teacher and you've been hammering a specific child in your school for 5 straight years. If she's a girl, you're a boy, you're a boy, you're a boy. According to your advice, she then goes ahead and gets these puberty blockers put in place, can't have children, had her breasts removed because you advised her to do so, and then one day realizes there's not much to live for because no heterosexual man wants to be with her. She can't have kids, so the odds of getting married to a man who wants to have them is essentially 0. And what is she going to do? She's going to come back and hunt you and go on a murder-suicide mission. You have to be careful when you are deliberately destroying someone's life. They will make you pay for it.
Especially
that is giving you some strong advice so you don't take a knife in the back. Think about what you're doing. Never mess with kids. They never forgive and they never forget. Go ahead.
I was going to say a lot of this stuff is irreversible. So they like you were saying, they're going to grow up angry because they made the wrong choice because their guidance counselor at school told them that's a good idea to get these hormone blockers and stuff like that,
Yeah. And, speaking of counselors, sorry Derek, get this, okay? A mom reached out to me in Victoria. She moved from Vancouver to Victoria just this last summer. On the very first day of school, the teacher asked the class for their preferred names and pronouns. And so this girl, 11 years old, she's been having a tough time, and she actually just got a psych eval back, and she's depressed. But this girl hit puberty really early, and she's having a tough time, and she decided right then and there to try out being a boy. And the counselor, Derek, like you were talking about, the counselor was coaching this girl on where to get binders without mom knowing, and how to talk to mom. So binders are these really tight-fitting things that they wrap around their breasts to kind of
so it
crush
pushes
them,
in, right?
so they can look more like a boy, and they can cause tissue damage even. They're so tight.
Let me tell you about binders, actually, Chris. I'm glad you brought that up. Look, Africa is one really messed up place. And rape is something that boys in Africa, especially when there's no education in that particular region, they feel it's their right to do. They see a girl, they get horny, they rape them, and they run away, and they go play soccer with the guys. So, I mean, this literally happens. Binders, this whole thing came up as a result of understanding that young girls would actually have planks of wood pressed against their breasts and tied tight. And sometimes what they would do is they would be their backs up against a tree with a binding piece of wood holding their breasts in for 3 or 4 hours at a time, which is leading to scar tissue on their backs and leading to their breasts not developing so that they can actually pass for boys so that African males don't rape them. That is where this binding thing has come from. It's a disgusting, absolutely disgusting thing that this is even allowed in Canada.
It's damaging to all the major arteries that are in the breasts, you know?
Yeah, I've read it can be harder to breathe even. But the thing is, the counselor, who was also the drama teacher, was telling this girl how to do this without mom knowing. And then the mom ended up meeting with the person and recorded the conversation, and the counselor lied.
Of
We
course.
have proof of this. They're all lying. And kids can change their names in school, and the school won't even inform the parents at any age.
Any idea what this counselor's name was?
No, but I wouldn't say that anyway. But
No, but if you do,
I
if
have to
you know
protect
it,
the mom. I have to
privately,
protect the
I'll deal with
daughter.
it later.
You know, but it doesn't matter. Like, there's so many of them like this. When I was in Victoria, hanging out on the street corner by the legislature, some people were yelling at me from the sidewalk because I stand on this little island by the crosswalk, and people were yelling at me by the sidewalk. And then from behind, this woman came up and she started screaming at me. And so I turned around and she was just losing it. And so I pulled out my phone and I started filming. And I asked her questions like, do you even know what puberty blockers are? And she says, I'm a gender consultant at Island Sexual Health. And I went, whoa, you're a gender consultant. So this is the woman, this woman completely losing it on me when I'd never even seen her. This is the woman that our children are being sent to get indoctrinated by. And Island Sexual Health, that organization, get this, they do 1,000 workshops every year in schools. And they can't use words like mom, dad, brother, sister.
What's this place called?
Island Sexual Health.
In Victoria.
Yeah. I think it's isexualhealth.ca.
Who's funding them? Where are they getting their money from?
The government.
Well, of course, the government. You know this stuff's been going around for a long time, ever since Kathleen Wynne started sex ed in Ontario, right?
Yeah. Speaking of pedophilia, like earlier you were saying, here we go. We'll look at this first. So go to the store. Go to the store for a minute. Go to the store. So
we are proud to be Victoria's first not-for-profit gender-affirming apparel and sexual wellness retailers. At Island Sexual Health, we believe in expression and experiences that are affirming, empowering, safe, and fun. See, it's just buzzwords. It doesn't mean anything.
But look at what they sell.
Let's see.
Okay. So
There's no pictures, so we'll just have to read it out. Birth bleed control supplies.
Oh, yeah. But keep going down to the next section. Gender affirming apparel.
Oh, yeah, I see it there. You just passed it up a bit.
On the
we
left
go.
there.
Yeah, right there. Blow it up a bit if you can.
Apparel, sexual wellness, and pleasure products. We are proud to offer products to gender affirming apparel, sexual wellness, and products to enhance pleasure, such as binders, packers, gaffs, and packing underwear, including child and youth sizes. We offer COVID-safe fitting appointments. What the hell is a packer and a gaff?
So a packer is a like a fake knitted penis that they'll put in their panties just to make it look like they have a bulge.
Ugh.
A gaff is for boys, and it kind of crushes the penis down so they can pass more easily in a skirt without having a bulge.
My God. A wide variety of personal
of
lubricants, including organic, vegan, and gluten-free. Really, it's a thing with an exclamation mark. Internal and external vibrators, anal toys, masturbation sleeves from the Japanese company Tenga, including the egg and cup models, blush panties. What are those?
I don't know. I mean, the main thing is probably that first one, because that's what this gender consultant that was freaking out at me. You know, this is her job, is to take these kids, not tell the parents what the hell they're talking about, and they're selling this crap to kids. Like, it's just gross, man. It's just all fucking gross. Oh, pardon me. I never swear.
Bro, I'm mad too.
I never swear, but this just
reproach.
makes me mad.
Yeah,
I'll never apologize for that.
Yeah.
Guys, don't glaze over the fact that it's a non-for-profit. Now, all that means is
funded by the government.
It's ran by activists.
Yeah,
the activists
100%.
get tons of money in their pocket. The directors get huge salaries, and they get government funding because it is a not-for-profit. Provincially, federally, maybe even the city's kicking money into this.
But they're going into the schools. They do 1,000 workshops a year. Think about that. That's like 4 every day that is a business day.
Wow.
And they're totally indoctrinating the whole island with this garbage. And every kid is hearing this stuff every day at school. They're all hearing it.
And it's
every day.
Being paid for with our tax dollars. Think about that.
Yeah.
Well, they're lobbying for it. Obviously, it is our tax dollars, right? So, a little bit of homework for people. Check in your cities to see if you have the same kind of program. I guarantee you do.
Mm-hmm.
My God. Well, let's also talk about this for a second here. All right. I'm going to bring this guy up. This is Corey and his dad. You want to see what his dad looks like? You want to see what Corey looks like? Remember this guy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we've got meet Corey and Eric Mason, a father and daughter navigating through their gender transitions together. All right. So they're holding photographs of what? Themselves?
Must be.
Right. So the boy became a girl and the woman became a man, I guess. What happened here is Corey, he put on this show, not show. He was in a bathroom, and there's a song that's playing, and it's those ones where you drop cards. Hi, my name is Corey. I've always wanted to play in dresses. Boys would beat me up, and he just keeps dropping these cards in place, right? And he's very, very good at being very, very feminine with each one. His facial expressions are very feminine. It's almost like strippers. When a stripper's trying to get your money, this is what this little guy was doing when he was about 10 or 11 years of age. Somebody was training him in how to go and like that. Like this feminine stuff that I've seen 1,000 times, but in very adult situations with adults. Then Corey becomes some kind of hero. And what was her name? Anne Hathaway, that idiot actor, comes out and says he's a hero just because he wants to change his gender. And then goes on this YouTube rant about how he cannot wait to get his puberty blockers. And then they arrive. Like they were live on YouTube, and his puberty blockers arrived by FedEx. And he's going, yay, they're here. And they break the needles out and show other children around the world what these needles look like and how happy Corey is now. Being, I suppose, a girl with a penis. I don't know what he's done to himself in the way of physical mutilation. I just don't know. But the very fact that this started with a YouTube video, and then this kid gets turned into a celebrity, as a result. And now mom is equally as bad as he is. And I do blame parents who behave like this. You know, that's not how you show support for your kid.
No,
What
not at all.
support would have been is, Corey, you know, you have weird feelings. They will go away. This is called gender dysphoria. Corey, I love you. Spend time with me. Let's go out and do things together as a family. Like go to the movies, go bowling, bounce on trampolines, go ride bikes, hike, swim, hit the beach, whatever it takes. Do normal human being stuff, and your kid won't end up like that. Yeah. And you won't have to, you know, constantly be watching your back with people out there who are angered by it. You're not a hero when you do these things. You're someone who took the easy road out, like Chris said earlier today. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just really important people understand how widespread this is. I know we can watch these videos and we can say, yeah, that's all terrible, but it doesn't affect my kid. But you have no idea what's going on in the schools these days. It's crazy. Like even people that got out of school 6-7 years ago, they don't know because it's changed. These activists have succeeded in getting this ideology into all of our schools. And even if you have a teacher that's not into this stuff and doesn't teach it a lot, it's woven into everything. It's like in PE. A woman reached out to me, you know, last month. I talk to her all the time. She's local here. She lives in Coquitlam. And the entire school was read a book by this guy. Maybe look it up. This trans woman wrote 2 books called Rick and George. And so in this one book, it's about a little boy who wants to be a girl. And so this little boy has a friend who's a girl, and she lends him her underwear, her panties. And so he goes into the bathroom stall, this little boy, this is a children's book. He goes into the bathroom stall and he pulls on these panties, and oh my goodness, they feel so light and airy, like wearing nothing at all. And the little boy looks down and he sees these little hearts on the panties, and he just realizes that he's finally who he's supposed to be.
I don't want to see that book.
This is a trans woman with a kinky fetish writing about it as a children's book, and the school paid this guy $650 to read the book to the entire elementary school.
Where the hell are the dads?
They don't know.
Why did one of the dads just not walk in there and break this guy's nose? What's going on? What's wrong with you parents out there? No, now it's my turn to scream at you. Chris Sky yelled at you guys 2 weeks ago for caving into mask pressure. Now I'm going to yell at you for this. Where the hell are the parents when you're allowing this thing to go on? Why are you putting up with this? These are your children, your babies. These are the ones you gave birth to. You put them in diapers. You've tried your very best to protect them from the outside world, and then you throw them to the wolves, and you don't deal with it in any way, shape, or form. What you do instead is you come and you watch shows like this where you go, oh, my goodness, yeah, that's terrible. It is terrible. What the hell are you going to do about it? Sit there and complain? Where are the dads? Where are the men in this country? God damn it, where are the men? We used to be the most masculine country on the planet. We used to have handlebar mustaches and mullets. Men had muscles. They would get into a fight in a second. And if someone even looked at their daughters the wrong way, that guy would have a broken jaw. Where have the men gone? Canada, get the hell off your ass right now. Get your kids out of the school system. Men, go to the damn gym. Ignore every freaking thing that you hear from a feminist right now. It's time for men to become men again. Guys, get your kids out of these schools right now. Chris, I'm sorry. You go. You got this.
You know what? You preach the good there, Kevin. You know what? There's a lot of issues around that. There's the family children services for 1, the school boards for 2, the court systems for 3. They're all against the fathers. They're all against the parents. They want the kids indoctrinated. So like most other fathers, one's sitting in jail for standing up to it. You know, we got the systems against us fathers. You got the system against the mothers. So what do we have to do? Go against the system.
Yeah, well, you do. You go against the system, guys. You can also look.
I got screwed by the system myself.
Look, Derek, but you find the individual teachers doing this, and you attack them with the law every which way imaginable. If this guy wants to read this shit, and it is shit, if he wants to read this shit to your kids, what you can do is read the law, figure out some way to put that guy under arrest for something. You make sure you bankrupt him with lawsuits galore. You put a video camera in his face. You make sure the whole world knows this individual is a complete and total pedophile. And then you pull your kid from that school. Never let your kid go back. You have to find like-minded people out there who want to make sure your kids are safe. This whole thing, everybody, stinks. Not just to high heaven, but to the depths of hell in every way imaginable. And the worst part is you're all sitting on your asses letting this happen. Get out there. It's time to take your country back. Take your masculinity back and protect your children. Jesus Christ, get things going.
There's tons of groups out there that'll help you homeschool your kids. If you want to get them out of school, get them out of school, because that's the best thing you can do right now, because the schools are screwed.
Correct. The guy's name is Alex Gino, by the way.
You know how to spell that last name?
Gino.
Oh, just Gino,
Yeah, Gino. Alex Gino.
Oh, my God. I'm going to put this guy up for you in just a second here.
Do it. We need to work together to expose these creeps.
We do. We all need to work together.
That's a man.
We need groups. We need numbers. Because we need to wake up politicians, because right now the balance of power is all with the transgender lobby. We need parents and we need men to get pissed and get numbers and make noise, because this is not okay.
So all the people that just had kids now, they're going to be going into this corrupt system. You better be ready to fight now, or you're going to be screwed in the future.
So that's what is apparently a woman these days.
What?
This is a trans woman. This is a trans woman, and trans women are women according to the liberals.
Look at the hair on the chin.
Does this look like a woman to you?
That's who the school paid $650 to read a children's book about his own sexual fetish to.
Oh, man, such freaks.
This guy is a freak.
Can't make this stuff up, man.
No, you can't.
He got an award. He's an award-winning author. He got an award for the book.
Out of the school boards. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, he's an award-winning author. He got awarded for the book because it's so inclusive.
What award could you win for shit like that? What award could you win?
I don't know.
What's the name of the award?
Was it the Nobel Prize? I hope not.
I don't know.
God, man. Sorry, guys.
In my opinion, this guy's a predator going after our children.
Yeah.
Hey, Alex Gino.
Accurate.
Alex Gino, if you're watching this, you're a pervert. You're a pedophile. You're a disgrace. If you wish, you go file a lawsuit right now for defamation against me. I will not settle out of court. I'm going to demand a trial. You are a piece of dirt. I insist. I demand that you sue me right now. I need you on the stand so I can question you on little boys wearing little girls' underwear. You are a pig, and you need to be locked up before you harm any more children. Okay,
they're grooming our kids. All our kids are being groomed in the public school system, and it's a catastrophe. I'm a positive person, if you can believe it. This is just so crazy. I had to speak up, because we can't let this happen to our kids. What's happening to our country? What's happening to the whole Western world? RT Today, Russia Today, which is basically Putin's propaganda arm, they're all over that video that happened to me in Montreal, because they use it to show their people how crazy the West have gotten.
And he's right.
Yeah, and I was live on RT International yesterday. That I don't know how many million people see that, but I've even got people from Saudi Arabia reaching out to me today, thanking me for what I'm doing. It's quite hilarious. But, our culture is insane now. But parents don't know what's going on because we didn't grow up in this. You're 50, I'm 45. We didn't grow up with anything like this. But the kids these days, I met with my school principal. Get this. I met with the principal in the parking lot one day, and for 45 minutes, I told him about everything that was going on, because I made a splash in my I made a splash in my community's Facebook group one day. I posted one of the school lesson plans about kindergartners. And I said, I'm going to go door to door in my community, and I'm just going to hand out the lesson plans that our kids might be taught, just so parents know what's going on. And of course, all these activists came out of nowhere at 8:30 on a Sunday morning and ended up getting me kicked out of the group, but not before I made some waves. And on Monday morning, someone had called the principal to complain. And so I talked to him out in the parking lot. And he told me that if I took the school lesson plans around to the community, if I showed the community what our kids are learning, that it would make the community feel unsafe.
What does that mean?
It means
Which community is you referring to?
where I live. I was going to go door. I'm still going to do it. I'm going to go door to door, dropping off these school lesson plans. Okay. Cause you can download them from the SOGI website. And I'm going to show parents what our kids might get taught, especially by their woke teachers. But he told me I would make the community feel unsafe just by showing them what kids can actually learn in school. Now, from his perspective, maybe some people think I'm a bigot and I'm speaking out against SOGI 123. But what a ridiculous thing to say. I'm just going to show parents what our kids are learning, and I'm not even going to comment on it. They can just read it for themselves. And so then I went home because this principal couldn't even tell me. At the end of my meeting, I was getting frustrated with him. And I said, look, Dave, this tree right here, is that a tree or is that a ball? And he wouldn't answer the question.
Of course you wouldn't.
And so I went home and I wrote this epic Twitter thread, like 10, 15 tweets long. But first, I looked up every single school trustee in all of the cities around Greater Vancouver. And I looked up every school superintendent. Then I went on Twitter and I found all their Twitter handles, the ones that are on Twitter. And there was probably like 100 odd of them. And I made a list. And then I wrote this Twitter thread and I tagged every single school trustee and superintendent. And I stayed up all night, literally, recruiting people mostly from the UK to tell true stories of what is happening to our children so that all these school trustees know. So in the morning, the very next morning, Tuesday morning, when all these people logged on to Twitter, they all had like 500 notifications. It was awesome. So
Yeah.
everyone knows what's going on in this school system. Then the school district reached out to me. I didn't reach out to them. They contacted me and I had a meeting with two of the top people in the school district. And I told them everything that was going on. And there was a woman and there was a man. The woman teared up 3 times during the meeting. So she gets it. The man was great. He was good. Like, they came prepared, though. They knew who I was. They'd done their research. And we had this good meeting, and I just laid it all out. But there's nothing they can do. They can't do anything about this curriculum. They said I have to speak to the Minister of Education.
Of course you do.
So, okay, I went over to Victoria to speak to the Minister of Education. And it was during a provincial election. On my way home to my hotel after a day of having conversations down by the legislature, I just stumbled upon their campaign headquarters. And so I thought, awesome. They'd rented this building for the campaign, NDP, and I pulled into the parking lot and I marched on in there. And there were about 10 NDPers in there. And so there were 2 candidates using that building for their campaign headquarters. One was the Minister of Education, Rob Fleming. He's not the minister anymore. And one was a woman named Grace Lohr, who was running. They both won their nominations. Anyway, I started speaking to Grace because Rob Fleming wasn't in. His campaign manager was there. But I started speaking to Grace about all these issues that we've talked about today. But quickly, but I did it eloquently and I got it all out there. And she just listened. And then the person beside her stopped doing what they were doing and they listened. And one by one, this whole building full of NDPers fell silent. And they just let me run for like 10 minutes. It was awesome. And I laid out all the stuff happening to kids. And then I finally got to the point where we are transferring rapists into women's prisons just because they say they are women. And that was a step too far for the NDP. They kicked me out and they told me I was making them feel unsafe. It's always that word. I'm making them feel unsafe. But I speak very calmly and truthfully, and they know it's true. So anyway, they took down my number for Rob, and he was maybe going to call me, they said, but I knew he wouldn't. So very next morning when I woke up, I left my hotel and I drove back there. Rob was in the building, and guess what they'd done, Kevin? They had hung the transgender flag underneath his political poster outside.
Yeah. Okay.
So they know everything that's going on, and they just don't care.
No, well, they don't. But I'll tell you also, though, about the New Democratic Party. These people are crazy. You have to have a select type of crazy to even get into them. It's almost like they've got a test. If you're like, are you a pedophile? Yes. Do you believe that men should marry 6-year-old girls? Yes. Okay, you're in. That's how bad the NDP truly is. I've met many of them.
Yeah.
And they're all the same. I don't know how human beings like this can even exist. Yet Albertans saw fit to put one of them in charge of their province, and look what they got.
How did Alberta do that? Of all provinces, you guys are the best province in Canada. How did that happen?
Maybe because I wasn't here at the time.
Yeah,
Things might have been different. But regardless, this is what we're talking about here. The New Democratic Party. I remember I infiltrated them before I became a known name around the world, I guess we'll say. I infiltrated the NDP because I wanted to find out more about these people. And there was one of them in there in Toronto who just stood up and said, when we get in office, we should have the right to deny emergency life-saving surgery to anybody who's conservative. Yeah, and this was a doctor. This was an emergency room doctor who was a member of the NDP speaking like this. These people are out of their minds.
Yeah, they are. And the Green Party's even worse. They say this conversion therapy bill, by the way, doesn't even go far enough. So we have an MP on Vancouver Island. His name's Randall Garrison, and he sits on the Justice Committee in Ottawa. So here's what happens when a bill becomes a law. It goes through second reading, and in this case, Bill C6 passed. Then it goes to the Justice Committee. So there's 12 people on the Justice Committee. Right now it consists of, I think, 6 Liberals, 1 NDP, 1 Bloc Québécois, and 4 Conservatives. The NDP member, Randall Garrison, he said that detransitioners, women like Kira Bell, who won that important ruling in England, he called detransitioners a false narrative, as though they don't exist. Like, he's just denying reality that all these kids are growing up and going, what the hell did you do to me? And now they're detransitioning, but now they've lost all their sexual function, or they're sterilized, or they don't have their breasts, or women have grown hair and have beards, and he's just denying that this even exists. And for a lot of them, the bill doesn't even go far enough. Like, these are insane people.
Yeah, I'll just show you what this guy looks like. Make sure this is the right guy before we start flipping off the gums here. Is this him?
Randall Garrison.
That him?
That's him.
That's him, huh?
That's
pervert.
him.
So, Mr. Garrison, one more person who's a complete and total pervert. Again, Garrison, we're calling you what you are. You're pedophilic. You want to harm children. You want to turn children into sex toys for guys your age. Yeah, sue me. Bring the lawsuits on. I can't wait. This is great. I want you to sue me, man. Questioning you on the stand, especially in Zoom, because the courts have still shut themselves down. I would love to have 500,000 people watching you on the stand, justifying to the world how you're not a disgusting, sick pervert. How would you possibly justify that?
Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to put this question out to you guys. To those people that are thinking, oh, I'll let someone else take care of it. Well, let's say everyone that's listening and watching this says, no, we're going to sit this one out. Let somebody else take care of it. So nothing changes. Where are we going to be 5 years, 10 years from now? What are the consequences of doing nothing?
A generation of kids.
Children, that's for sure.
This is modern day eugenics, is what it is.
Oh, it definitely is. And for those who don't understand eugenics, this was the type of thing when anybody who had any kind of mental illness whatsoever were sterilized. They were all sterilized. It was crazy that this was what was done. Mass sterilizations were done all over the United States and Canada. And we're doing the exact same thing today. You know, it's not like we have a population problem in Canada. I mean, we don't even have enough people in here. So really, what's the point of this eugenics? Chris, what's your thoughts on what the point of all this is?
Hey, these are just psychopaths. Where does a person become so mentally ill? I don't understand. But this is a cult. This is a religion that is sweeping the globe, and it's out of control. All these governments are adopting self-identification laws. They're all putting this crap into our school systems. And it takes one generation of indoctrinating children to completely change society. So I didn't want to get into all this stuff. Nobody wants to get into all this stuff. But I looked around one day and I went, who's going to go out on the street and talk to the regular Joe? Who's going to reach the construction workers? Who's going to reach dads? Who's going to do this? And I went, I don't see anybody. So I guess it's right now, I'll try to get the ball rolling. And that's all I'm doing. I'm just trying to, this is a faith-based thing for me, not from a religious angle, but I have faith that if I reach enough people, I run into some moms and dads, men and women, because, we're all in this. And eventually someone with some capabilities and more power than I have can do something to affect a change, because we are ultimately a democracy and we get to vote. And the only way we're ever going to vote out these liberals and these pigs that are coming for our kids is to build awareness on a much more massive scale. And so
it has to be a grand scale. We have no choice anymore.
Yeah. So I'm just doing what I can do. And people like you, I'm so thankful for, because I can have one conversation at a time on the street, but now we're having 20,000 conversations with all your listeners. I'm willing to
bet this video breaks 100,000 views just based on the subject matter alone.
I hope so.
And Chris, look, man, as I said, I have nothing but the utmost respect for you. you have no idea how happy I am to see the face behind the I love J.K. Rowling billboards. I was laughing when I saw them, and I didn't really pay enough attention to them at the time. But, as time went on, I began thinking, where are those billboards? We need them now, because it's getting crazier since they've come out. Yeah. Or perhaps maybe there's just more of them coming out of the woodwork and being noticed a bit more often. But either way, thank you for what you did.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
I take some heat from all corners. Sometimes men go like, J.K. Rowling, like feminist and all that sort of stuff. But here's the thing about J.K. Rowling. She just told the truth, man. Like, she told the absolute truth. And she was brave because they came for her. And they tried to cancel her. Even all the actors whose careers she made. Every single one of them. Emma Watson, whatever that Harry Potter dude's name is. Daniel Radcliffe. All these guys came out against her. Calling her transphobic. She hasn't said one transphobic thing. All she ever did was tell the truth.
Yep.
And she has such a reach that it reached millions. So she's a very important person in this. And she was very brave to do it. And so when I wear that, I have signs too that say I heart J.K. Rowling. You wouldn't imagine how triggered people get. Their minds just explode on sight. And she's never said one single transphobic thing.
We actually, Derek and I know exactly how quickly things can get blown out of proportion.
Yeah, I guess you do.
Yeah, look at the waste of native coffee.
Well,
yeah.
When I hang a banner like this up, all right, all over Toronto, I have the cops coming by with their knives, cutting it down and handing it back to me. We put out a coffee brand that's just, this is Derek trying to make a statement. This is also trying to open up dialogue. APTN, 660 News in Calgary, City TV decided to call me racist and whatnot. They interview me for 20 minutes and use zero of it in their report.
And don't want to talk to me.
They won't talk to the native guy who invented it, who cooked it up. So, yeah, we do know how crazy things can get. J.K. Rowling's been on the hot seat for a while. She will for a while. Yeah. Chris, it's going to get worse for you before it gets better. And it seems like you're the kind of guy that can handle it. So,
well, do I have a choice?
No. Well, no, not anymore.
It's like we don't have a choice. We do.
I don't feel I have a choice.
Chris, it's going to get to the point for you where there's going to be so much negative backlash that you're going to become unhireable. I mean, I am unhireable.
That's fine. I'm self-employed. They've already tried to. I've had 3 different letters from the Insurance Council of BC because I'm an insurance broker by trade. Just the personal insurance stuff like life, disability, critical illness, group benefits for small businesses. I was an investment advisor for 13 years before that. But they've come for me, and they can't do nothing because I'm not doing anything wrong. But so what? You know what? Even if they won and succeeded, I don't care, because one day I'm going to be 6 feet under, or I'm going to be sitting on an urn on somebody's sitting in a jar on somebody's mantle. And am I going to look back at my life and say, I have 2 little girls and I let them grow up and come into this world where we don't even know what the definition of a woman is anymore? No, I'm not going to do that. And so dads of girls, y'all need to wake up and start taking action, because they're coming for our children. So please come out and join me. I'd love it.
I'll see you in Calgary, my friend. I can't wait to do so.
Can't wait to meet you.
Thanks, bro.
Derek, do you have any last questions there for Chris before we end this?
You know what? I'm going to save them for when I see him in person.
Sounds good.
Fantastic. All right. Derek, thanks for being here, pal.
Thank you.
And Chris, I want to say thank you so much. I mean, like you've certainly earned my respect. Whatever that means to you, you've got it, and you've got it for life. What you're doing is amazing. The information that you've brought forward today is obviously well researched. You know your stuff, and I'm glad that you're brave enough to come out here and talk about this stuff in exactly the way it has to be spoken about. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for providing me with your platform. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And
I'll see you next week.
Oh, you will. That's a guarantee. I can't wait for that meeting, Chris. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy. Take it easy.
All right. You have a good night.
You too.
What an amazing guy. And I mean that. That's very sincere. Yeah, I'm still angry right now. I'm pissed off beyond reproach right now. I got to go jogging tonight just to burn this off. I was never a fan, Ed, just so you know, I was never a fan of the education system in any way when I was in it in Ontario. You know, I didn't like the idea that you're being forced to learn what I thought to be garbage. And I realize now that even though the education system that I went through was trash, it was vastly, hundreds of thousands of times better than what is out there today. There is absolutely no educational value whatsoever anymore. There is nothing but complete and total indoctrination. And it seems like it's almost as if there's a whole bunch of guys like just, ooh, yeah, they're going to be 15 soon. Ooh, I can't wait. That's exactly what it feels like to me. And this is entirely in the West, to the point now where everybody in the East is speaking out and mocking our entire society. And as a result of all this stupidity, we're falling off big time, socioeconomically, nationalistically, educationally. We are losing it, man. Like the rest of the world is leaving us behind. You want proof of that? I mean, have a look at Mecca, for God's sakes. They have a clock tower there that's taller than the CN Tower by a lot. And it's got this massive clock face full of millions of LEDs that you can see from 40, 50 miles away. We are being left behind by every country around the world because they're focused on growth and we're focused on perversion. I've had enough of this. Ed, go ahead.
Kevin, you got really upset at one point tonight.
Yeah, I did. I'm still mad.
But here's the thing, though. You're asking, where are the men? The men don't know about this. That's why, guys, take these videos, play it for some guys on your lunch break, at dinner, if they ever open the bars, which we know they won't for at least another 7 or 8 years, because the third wave is coming. You got to have these conversations, guys. This is why they want us to social distance. Ladies, make sure your men watch this. And if you got kids, you got skin in the game. I don't personally, but I find it disturbing, and I'm putting time and energy into this. Do something. Once you know the truth, how can you do nothing? If you do nothing, you're condoning this. You are the problem, not the guys doing this. Because the guys doing this, they think it's a good thing to do. Or they've been paid off, or they've been corrupted. By not doing nothing, you condone this, okay? You understand what I'm saying? Now that you
I'm not
know,
sure if
you
the average person
this.
does comprehend that. And I'm really not sure if the average person understands that when they're sitting around doing nothing, that they are not just part of the problem, but the problem. Because guys like this, these perverts that walk into your schools, you can solve their problem for them immediately, even without violence. I mean, the violent, they deserve it. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying they deserve it. But you can crush a guy like that financially for a very long time. You can have a guy like that appear to the rest of the world like Jonathan Yaniv does, who is going to start doing jail time for all of these things, and who had his penis and testicles severed and had it done incorrectly, and who's probably going to die from toxic shock syndrome. Bye-bye. We don't need people like that on the planet. They serve no purpose other than to hurt, harm, harass, and eventually lead to the downfall of our society. Get off. I told you all before, get off the couch. Stop watching Netflix and Amazon Prime. These things do not help you. You have to fight. The next decade in this country is time to fight. You can rest later. Rest a decade from now when all this gets fixed up. That's what I've got to say.
Share this out. Get the conversation going.
What's that, Derek?
We need you guys. We need the men. We need the women to stand up for our children.
Yeah.
There's very little people doing it.
And don't think
all of what everybody's fighting for across Canada is for our children. It's not just the lockdown. It's not just the masks. It's for our children. Anyways, that's it.
Women can get vocal. Women can do letter writing campaigns. Women can scream and yell at mayors and education ministers. Women can march into the principal's office and say, what the hell is going on here? Now that you know, do something. Start by sharing this out. Have the conversations. We don't make money at doing this, to be honest. We just got to bring the truth out. And when you see how rotten the mainstream media is and how it's been bought off, and it basically is nothing more than a propaganda arm, basically we're living in a communist state. But some people say, oh, no, things are still good. I have a job, pay my taxes. No, you're wrong. Well, guess what, guys? This is part of the Communist Manifesto. It's happening. How much longer are you going to let this slide? When it's too late, then what? Good luck.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Ed. I want all of you, please, to read the Communist Manifesto. That's Karl Marx. He wrote this absolute abhorrent piece of crap book where he wanted to tell everybody that you didn't have to work, don't put effort into things, don't get better in life. And somehow Antifa and many governments around the world have implemented this guy's ideas into their governments, and every time they do, it fails. You got to remember, if somebody writes something who's never had a job, which he didn't, who never held public office, which he did not, who never cleaned his house at all. British spies reported to the fact this guy's house was a pigsty, who beat his wife, who was an alcoholic, and who never bought anything for his kids of any value. He would actually get innards and entrails from butcher shops and just throw meat on his chairs and say, hey, kids, play with this. Would you listen to anyone like that if you knew that's what they did? I mean, it's common knowledge that Karl Marx was this guy. And all of you out there have no idea that his playbook is the playbook of modern life. It's an hour and 45 minutes roughly to get through it. It's an audio book. You can listen to it. It's free on YouTube because the Communist Manifesto is in the public domain. Listen to it for free and think about how crazy it is. It's something from over 150 years ago is now true again today. We are repeating the same mistakes over and over again as a people. And the worst part of it is we are absolutely just handing our kids over to these perverts and saying, here, mutilate them, destroy them, make them nothing, and do it for no good reason whatsoever other than I am too disinterested in the world around me to bother fighting you on this. Well, guys, if you don't fight for your kids, someone else is going to own them in the future. That's it for today, everybody. I got to calm myself down. I really am going jogging right now. My name is Kevin J. Johnston. This is the Kevin J. Johnston Show, which runs 7 p.m. For 2 hours, 9 p.m. for 2 hours, Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. I can't even talk. I'm so angry. 7 p.m. Calgary time for 2 hours, 9 p.m. Toronto time, 2 hours, Monday to Friday on twitch.tv/Kevin J. Johnston, vk.com/Kevin J. Johnston, facebook.com/real Kevin J. Johnston. And of course, we upload everything when we're done to BitChute, which you'll find here. Type in kevinjjohnston.com. And all 4.5 years now of my videos are there waiting for you to peruse, enjoy, and hopefully learn from. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody, at the same time. Again, Kevin J. Johnston signing off. Good night.